Hey humans, how's it going? Susan Ruth here. Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Human Podcast. This is episode 303, and I had a conversation with Laura Brody. She is a costumer, a sculptor, the founder of Opulent Mobility, which, by the way, is having their annual call for artists. So she talks about that here on the show. She's a curator, educator, and arts activist. Some call her a visionary. I call her cousin. She just married my cousin David, and so now she's officially my cousin as well. It's very exciting. During this episode, you might hear a little casual tap dancing. That is her dog, Lucy. So if you hear that, that's what that sound is. Anyway, I had a really good time talking with Laura and learning stuff about her I didn't know before, which is always fun. You think you know a person over the years, and they still surprise you. I'm excited for you to learn about her and to love her like I love her. Okay, usual stuff. Social media for Hey Human Podcast can be found on Facebook and Instagram. You can find my personal social media, Susan Ruthism, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Email me, susan@heyhumanpodcast.com. On heyhumanpodcast.com, you'll find a links page. Every episode gets its own links section, and you will find out more about my guests and what we talked about and that kind of thing. There's also a store on heyhumanpodcast.com, and you can check out all the swag-a-delicious things on there. And you can also, on Hey Human Podcast, find the contribute button, and that helps support and keep it ad-free. So I appreciate that. Rate, review, and subscribe to Hey Human on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Is another great way to support the show. Super appreciate it. Helps with the algorithms. Does all the good things, all the good work. If you want to know more about me and other stuff I do aside from the podcast, go to susanruth.com. You will find my art and music and a mailing list and interviews with me, things like that. And if you want to check out my music, you'll find my album, All I Ever Wanted Was Everything, in all the places you can get music for download. Check out my YouTube channel, Official Susan Ruth, and there's a bunch of videos up there, and I will do my best to keep making sure new content gets uploaded to that as well. I wanted to tell you about a couple shows I watched this week that I really enjoyed. Upload. It was on Amazon Prime, I believe. Yes, that's correct. And I really thought it was fun. It's one part mystery, one part rom-com, one part sci-fi. I really enjoyed it. It was good. I actually binge watched 2 seasons. I don't know where the time went. I got sucked in and I loved it. There's a couple of really fun surprises in that show, so I think you'll enjoy if you're into that kind of thing. And I also watched The Adam Project. There's a lot of love and hate for this movie that is starring Ryan Reynolds and a bunch of other people as well that did a fantastic job. The kid on the show is fantastic. I enjoyed it. I loved it. I cried even, so if that says anything. I think people take movies like this way too seriously, and I don't know what they're expecting. I'm seeing a lot of love, and I'm glad because it really is. It's a good one, and it goes by fast. It's a pretty short movie, all in all. So yeah, those are my reviews. And again, ad-free podcast, so I'm not being paid to tell you that I think something is great. If I say it, it means I really mean it. And yeah, it is great. Okay, enough of all that. Let's get into this conversation with my cousin Laura. And thank you for listening. And be well and be kind and stay safe. And here we go. Laura Brody, welcome to Hey Human.
Thank you so much for doing this. We've been talking about it for, I don't know, a while.
A really long time, and you always have felt like family to me, but now you are officially family, so welcome to the family. Congratulations on your recent wedding to my cousin.
Thank you. It was actually really fun. And we were just talking about how nice and simple and to the point it was, and also a good party.
Yeah, it was great. And it was outdoors.
Yes.
Which was also great. And people were wearing masks.
Yes.
Also, which was impressive. And yeah.
Super important to me, honestly. I mean, the last thing you want is something like that. Is a super spreader event.
Yeah, it'd be a real bummer if somebody came to your wedding and then dropped dead. And
yeah, that'll be sad and bad.
Because there were all sorts of age groups there. And yeah, for sure. It was really fun.
Yay.
And it was we'll give a plug, it was at Wing Walker Brewery.
Thank you. Yes, that is
family business.
Yes, the family business. And yeah, it was really nice just to have that.
Yeah, great time.
Great time, great space.
Yay. All right, let's get into you.
Okay.
So, Laura, where are you from originally?
Fairbanks, Alaska is where I was born.
I had no idea.
Oh.
This is going to be fun because
Okay.
as much as I know you, I know there's lots I don't know. So, how long did you stay in Alaska? How long was your family there?
Well, I was born there, and then we moved around a lot, and then went back when I was in the latter part of grade school, and then went through there through my first 2 years of, my first year and a half, really, of undergrad.
Moved around because of military or work, or what was
out of work art professor. Oh. So apparently it's
Mom or dad?
Art. That was my dad.
Okay.
So art professor brat, I guess.
Yeah.
Sort of a similar idea, but when you're not tenured, that becomes a whole thing. So trying to find a place to hop around to, and some of the places stuck and some of them really didn't.
Yeah, I never really thought about that teachers also move around the way military have to move around.
It's even more so now, especially since it's like all adjunct all the time.
Yeah, that is interesting as well.
Yeah.
I've noticed that there's adjunct professorship is the thing.
Is the thing.
Is that so they don't have to pay them probably as much. They don't have to give them the benefits at the end. That sucks.
It does. It's really rare now that you can find anything that's a tenured position. But it also means that if you're trying to chase that, it's a drag of a lifestyle. And so in a lot of ways he was fortunate that he was able to go back there, because that was where he was doing assistant teaching, and then was able to go back and then eventually retired from there and was the dean for a brief time.
Oh.
Yep.
Mom artistic?
She knits. No.
Okay.
And that's just never been her skill. It's been a lot of different things. So more recently, she was doing counseling and social work. So it's like, in some ways, polar opposites. Mm-hmm. They met in Alaska.
Okay.
I think he was teaching her. Yeah.
Saucy.
I know.
Scandal.
Maybe. But at the time, my dad had been married before. My birth mother died when I was like 2.5 weeks old, something like that. And so at about 1.5 is when he married Mom.
And stepmother.
Yeah.
But mom.
Yeah.
Because it's the only mother you ever knew.
Yes.
Do you have any identity with your birth mother that now that you're an adult and can go back and find things and know things?
More now. I mean, it was tricky for a while growing up, because I always had a really difficult relationship with my family. And for a long time, I didn't want to know too much about my birth mother, because there was a real issue, especially with my mom, that was not something she wanted. She wanted to talk about it mostly when she was mad at my father about how he wasn't doing things well. No. But I got information about her. I got her diaries and I got photo albums, and I just didn't want to know for a while, because it just seemed like it was so fraught and it was a problem that,
What did she pass from?
A heart disease.
Okay. And her name?
Her name was Anne.
Anne.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anne Sullivan.
Hi, Anne.
Hi.
Wherever you are.
Yeah.
Siblings?
Yes. I have a younger brother and a younger sister.
All right. I'm always curious about family dynamics when your birth mother has passed, mm-hmm. you have a stepmother, and again, as you said, fraught in mm-hmm. places. Did you feel isolated from your siblings at all? As if you weren't quite
I was the caretaker of them.
Oh, okay.
So that was a very specific thing. So it was both, there was definitely some separation, definitely in terms of how I was treated, but also that I felt really protective of them for a very long time.
Yeah.
And still sometimes.
What did you study in grad school?
I studied costume design. So that was what I really went into when I first realized that was a job. I'm like, that's what I want to do.
What drew you to costuming, to have that be your major? Was that something you'd always done as a kid?
It was actually really interesting. One of the first reasons I got interested into that, and the whole idea of it, that clothing could affect the way people thought about you. And that was junior high. So we, for quite a long time, didn't have a bunch of money. And I was wearing cast-offs from my grandmother's friend's daughter. So a lot of stuff that was definitely not what anyone was wearing in Fairbanks. That I can tell you that. A little out of date, but it was just whatever clothes were there.
Sure. Did kids make fun of you for the outfits?
Yeah, absolutely. That wasn't really important to me because we had moved around so much that it was really hard for me to feel like I was part of anything. So it was like not being part of it was okay. This is just what happens. But then somebody who did become a friend of mine ended up going into foster care. And whatever had happened with her parents, her foster parents fed her pretty well. And her parents from before had clothed her very well. So after she was getting fed properly, she didn't fit into anything she had. So she had all these fancy clothes and she gave them to me.
Oh.
And all of a sudden people started talking to me and I did not get it at all.
Interesting.
I'm like, what is going on? I don't understand. So, but once I realized, and she told me afterwards, because she was very proud that helped make me more popular, I'm like, okay, I can do something. I can make people think things based on how I am dressed and what I do. And I started playing with it. And I started learning more about it. And at least for me, the thing was always more about the sociology and the history of it. I was just fascinated.
Self-taught then, or did you seek out someone to teach you?
I was pretty self-taught. I went and did a sewing class in high school, which was a terrible choice. Oh. It was just a terrible, terrible thing. But I ended up costuming a whole show, and I got a C in the class because I wasn't, making a prom dress or something. I wasn't doing a great job at sewing. I was trying to costume a show.
Why is costuming different than your everyday clothier creation?
It doesn't necessarily have to be, but for that different purposes. I mean, you're trying to tell a story and you're trying to tell a silhouette. So that for me was much more interesting than trying to have something that was just making, a single event look fancy. Mm-hmm. But,
I don't know how much people, well, maybe they do now because I know obviously it's an Oscar level thing that costuming is, but how much the costumers work with television and film. Well, you work in such things, and that how much it goes into the scenery and the story and the character. Like, I think of Queen's Gambit as a great example.
Oh, that's an amazing one, yeah.
How much her costuming was so well thought out, how she mirrored the chess games that she was playing, and
it was so well thought out. The color was amazing. Gorgeous. The outline, the silhouette was gorgeous. It was also, it was such a big part of the story that she wasn't, she came from almost nothing and she wasn't allowed to dress nicely. And when she could, she was like, I am going to be the fanciest thing in the room. And she was the fanciest, most fashionable out of all of these weird, room full of dingy guys.
Yeah. As you came out of college and you started realizing the world at large needed to be costumed.
Yes.
That there were so many opportunities for that. And you were already doing that to your own stuff, I'm sure. Kind of like Andy from Pretty in Pink. Right?
Well, I was doing less stuff for me, but I was always dressing other things.
Sure.
And I also was really big on creating stuff out of things around. I was great on repurposing and have been doing that for many, many, many
Ahead
years.
of your time.
Well, it just was super important to me. But also that was the materials I had, that's what you had around. And I grew up around people who really liked to repurpose because in Alaska, it was sort of a point of pride. You made things out of what was there, you know. And sometimes because you couldn't get out because it was 60 below.
Yeah, for sure. Did you set your sights on the film and television industry, or was that a long process to get there?
That was a process to get there. I mean, I did a bit of it. I did some stuff for PBS, living and working in space. I did some stuff. When I first came out of undergrad, though, I just started mostly with theater. I ended up and worked for a year over at the Juilliard School in New York, and looked at it and went, okay, I can do this. I don't have to have a master's, but everyone telling me I don't have to have one has one. And they're able to teach, and I might be wanting to teach someday. I might want to do that. But also, it was terrible money, like miserable. And I mean, at the time, New York wasn't, it was less expensive than it is now, but it certainly wasn't cheap. And I'm like, okay, this is dumb. I might need to go back to school. And I was able to go back, worked for a while, and earned up a bit, and went to CalArts. And I ended up getting a fellowship there, which was really nice. Because otherwise I could not have afforded that. That was dumb expensive. And it's even more dumb expensive now. But when I first visited it, it was funny. And this big, ridiculous sprawl of a place with just everything going on all at once. And I remember seeing an enormous inflatable chicken on one side of something with like a sign saying shows at 1 and 3. I'm like, I could go here. I think this might be my place.
Plot twist, the chicken was the dean of the school.
Well, in theory. But no, it was great, and I actually ended up getting to work with people, a lot of dance work, a lot of more esoteric performance art type work, and more artwork. But I'd also done sort of performance art things in undergrad, so that was really, that kind of artiness really appealed to me.
How were you developing your personal style then? This is under the assumption that as a costumer, just like for me, a songwriter, like I can tell who's written the song. There's a fingerprint in it. And how did you come to find what your fingerprint would be in your work, other than the repurposing, the visually?
What I found specifically is that I was a natural at draping, at coming to creating things on a body, on a form, and sculpting things.
Oh, interesting.
And different materials, and that just really, it really spoke to me.
And that's something that's not a thing for people usually? Or
no,
just, okay.
Not necessarily, but also it was just, it came really naturally and simply to me, and I skipped ahead and didn't do any of the basic stuff and went right to bias draping. I'm like, okay, this sounds awesome. That's what I want to do.
You found your place?
Yeah, but finding that and also finding unusual materials. So I pretty much went, instead of doing a more assistant design route, I ended up doing specialty costume for quite a long time. And for everything, like Disney on Ice, and for commercials of all kinds, and opera stuff, and any goofy-ass theater thing, and a lot of odd performance art.
I'm sure Disney on Ice would be a master class because of the flexibility of the humans and the outfits that have to go with that.
Yeah, that is absolutely. But almost all of the more specialty stuff I did, the movement-based stuff, I was always really interested in how things work with the human form, no matter what the human form is shaped like, especially the things for opera. So you get everything from the dancers in the chorus to the opera singers of great size. So, my first 60-inch waist was a revelation. But mostly after anything, it's just, okay, I need more or less material.
I'm glad that slowly and surely I'm glad that it is at all now that the designers are realizing that there are so many body shapes. Yeah. It isn't just runways of size 2 and sample sizes. Yeah. Because it really there's such works of art. There's so much beautiful things. And as you said earlier, people who feel beautiful by what they're wearing, they approach the world differently and the world approaches them differently. And to X out a whole huge swath of human.
It just seems horribly wrong.
It's super wrong.
And that innately.
And it's pointless because
Come on, you have.
I know it's elitist as well, which I get that, but I understand why they're doing it. But
there are a whole bunch of ists in there.
Yeah.
But no, there are so many beautiful bodies and so many beautiful shapes, and that was also something that appealed to me less and less. I tried to do some fashion things. I was not very interested in it. I didn't like. It was not as intriguing to me. The storytelling wasn't as good, and maybe I also wasn't finding some of the people that I would have liked to work with. But I was working in a bunch of different places and would get really frustrated with different hierarchies and different organizations, and but kept trying to find better places to learn and new places to work with where I would get the better stories. I think it took me a while to realize what I needed to do was start making my own.
Was that scary, getting out there and trying
That was both awesome and terrifying.
Yeah.
But I've spent a lot of time, and I'm kind of a rip the Band-Aid off person with a lot of things, sometimes to my own detriment. Finally, let's leap into okay.
But fashion is getting so much more adventurous and interesting.
It is. And there always were some people, but they were very select.
Yeah.
So those were the people I was interested in,
Yeah.
A lot of people wanted to do film. I only wanted to do, say, Peter Greenaway things. I didn't care about, and still don't care as much about who's in the thing, or about the name quality, but it'd be the more interesting stuff. So, more recently I've been doing things like sight gags for kids' sitcoms, which is hilarious and ridiculous, and dueling chicken mascots. That's awesome. But that's more my kind of style if it's not making my own designs.
Yeah.
Because that's just fun stuff.
Well, let's talk about that process. You go in with the director, or is it the writers and directors, the cinema? Who do you work with when you're trying to suss out what the costuming is going to look like? What does that look like for you? How does that process happen?
Totally depends on what kind of production I'm working on. What that is for film versus what that is for dance versus what that is for theater, and it's widely varied. But mostly it's about communication first with the director, for me, and then figuring out how that works with the organization, because that's its own set of other stuff. Mm-hmm. And then coming up with sketches and ideas and a lot of research, and then developing it. And with some people I have a lot of free reign, and some people I do not. So it depends.
Yeah. Are there any particular movies, when you think about maybe the last 20, 30 years, are there any movies that come to mind of the costuming just for you personally blew you away?
Wow. Because I haven't been seeing a lot of movies lately.
That's why you really know a wide breadth. That's why I said 20 or 30 years.
You've given me a room, but I know this was a while ago, but The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover was some of the most beautiful color range that I have seen in a long time. It was just gorgeous, and some pretty astonishing shapes. You're like, wow. Brazil was glorious. Really well done. Sometimes it'll be really simple stuff. Like Being John Malkovich was a brilliant piece of design, not because it was interesting so much in terms of the costumes, but the color that they did and just that subtlety. It was very nicely done.
I love that movie.
Yeah, I really liked Russian Doll more recently, and Queen's Gambit. Design-wise, those are really nicely done. They're striking and very individual. Everyone had their own specific silhouette and character and color. Really nice.
There's a fantasy element that I see in when I'm talking about those fingerprints, that when I look at your stuff, even the stuff that's more generalized, I still see that fantasy element. Is that definitely your lean to? Yeah,
I have a lot of magical realism is what they call.
Yeah.
But in a lot of my own designs and artwork, there's a lot more of the, creating your own fantasy reality.
I remember being young, my mother used to make a lot of our clothes, and the fabric store legs, that's what we called it. Our legs she'd be in there for hours, and our legs would eventually give out, and we'd just sit on the floor grumpy while she was poring over Vogue and, McCall's and all that stuff. But she would make some really cool stuff, but hers were much more, not run of the mill, because she had some fun with things, but she wasn't being super fantastical. I think for her, textures and patterns were the thing. Yeah. I think that was her deal.
Textures are always a big deal for me. And look, I did a lot of work with smaller theaters that were just much more subtle, But yeah, they're much less my thing than, my version of the 7 Deadly Sins.
Yeah, which when I came over, what is it, a bustier, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an open bust bustier that's made out of a bunch of different leather jackets and pieced together with zipper teeth, sort of outlining each of the seams.
With a peekaboo breast.
Yes.
Which is so cool. I would wear that.
Nice. We'll have to set something up for you.
I love it.
I did use it in most recently in the Firebird, which is there's an adaptive dance troupe that I work with. It works with different dancers with and without disabilities, and that was for the Firebird.
Nice.
Yeah.
What got you into that? Because that became a big focus for you.
Oh yeah, this has been a huge one. It started a while back just as an idea. So a former boyfriend had a stroke, and I got a lot more intimately acquainted with the devices that people use to help them around. I was pretty impressed because I really have kind of an engineer mind, but my artist eye was like, really? They do not have to look like that. Nothing has to only look like crappy linoleum with like those rubber hand grips. There's no reason it has to. So why?
You're talking about the apparatuses that help.
All the apparatus.
Yeah. The arm things. And
the crutches, the canes, the walkers, a lot of the basic wheelchairs. Some of it I get in terms of function, but they really don't have to look like that. So
they
it's
all
just
look pretty gross. Very blah.
Okay. And they're very cold.
Cold, yeah. That's a good
clinical.
word.
And medical based, and they aren't personal, which seemed really strange to me because this is personal.
And it's something that you have to be intimate with for the rest of your life in many cases. Or
even if it's only for a short time. I mean, if you're going to decorate a cast, why would you not decorate a cane?
That's a good point.
And so for me, it was okay, something's wrong here. I don't know what it is. But it took a while and actually a breakup and a really, really big series of changes in my own life, like making a bunch of changes. And coming back to the idea and saying, a good friend of mine had an extra wheelchair and he let me use it. So thank you, Peter Sobey. That was awesome. And I did it up like an Edwardian throne. And it, right here, although it was looking a little different when I first did it.
We'll put pictures of it on the social media so people can see it.
Cool. But when I first did it, I had no idea, because he was quadriplegic, I didn't know what balance he needed in that, or that he needed, because it's different for every person, of course. But I put too much padding in the back, and I dressed him up, and I dressed the chair up, and brought him out for an event, and he almost fell off the chair, and so he was luckily really good about it. I had friends, we helped, it was okay. He brought his own chair. He didn't have to sit in it for a long time. I'm like, I'm sorry. But I just started looking at this going, okay, I need to know more. I'm not qualified to do things for medical licensing, but I can't be the only one who's thought about this. And I started researching, and there were actually some really interesting designs out there that had been patented, and they were not on the market at all. I'm like, okay, something else is happening. And then I tried to show my pieces at a couple of places, and then started looking around at galleries, and almost none of them were wheelchair accessible. I'm like, okay.
The galleries weren't.
Yep, not even kind of. Yeah. So older buildings here frequently are not in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But I'm looking around like, there are a lot of questions. I have a lot more questions and I have more answers. And I got really interested and really stubborn. and started asking around. I'm like, okay, well, I can't be the only one thinking about it. So I started a show. Thinking, how hard can it be? Somebody else is interested. I'll ask other artists. We'll put on a show.
Yeah.
I've done theater shows. It'll be great.
And that's how Opulent Mobility was
That's
born?
how Opulent Mobility started. And it was this tiny little thing, but I had to bug this gallery owner in Ventura for like a year. Like, who's this chick? I don't know. But he had one of the only places I'd seen that was actually wheelchair accessible, fully. I'm like, this is dumb and rare, and I shouldn't have to look that hard.
So explain what for people listening, what Opulent Mobility does, what its purpose, and how it's integrated into the community. Okay,
it is a group art exhibit that asks people to reimagine disability as opulent and powerful. And as it started, I was kind of general, but as it's grown, and it's grown quite a bit, it's now got people from all over the world putting work in there. I didn't specify what type of disability or what type of focus that people should put into the show, just that they make it opulent and powerful. And so we've had work that was about invisible disabilities and mental health issues and sight issues and hearing and migraines and dyslexia and just about anything you can possibly imagine. But it's giving a lot of artists in the disability sphere more of a fine arts way to show their work, because there are a lot of disability art shows that are kind of patronizing is the kindest word I could use. It's like, oh, look what those nice people can do. No, that's not what I want. And I wasn't trying to do only by and for academic disability art, because there's a real place for that. There's also a lot of really angry disability art, which I get. Like, you have every right. Our culture is so skewed against it, and it's such a horrible drag. But I was trying to come up with something so that we could talk about this in general, with abled and disabled people talking about it. And that's not necessarily the best approach. So coming up with something opulent, powerful, and beautiful. Lovely. And beauty in all the ways you can define it. But you could come with something that really opens up conversations, and it has. It's been so cool. I had no idea when I got started with this that this would grow like that. But it has its own weight, its own gravity, and it's developed things because it has requirements. The show has requirements.
How many people now apply for the show?
Oh gosh, the last one we had 75 people applied to it. Incredible. And it was actually a much smaller group of people who got into it. This past couple of ones, first one, and then this past couple of ones, I didn't have any fee for getting involved. And what happens when you do that is that you get a lot of things you have to rule out, so many.
Sure.
But I didn't want to, because things have just been such a nightmare with COVID.
Yeah.
Afterwards, I might put in a small fee, just because that means I don't have to filter quite so many things out.
Course.
And it is also a lot of work. And I get some sponsorship, but not very much. Mm-hmm. And so I need to get better at fundraising is what.
Well, and you have one coming up, right? When's the next Opulent Mobility?
The next one's going to be in October. Going to be working at Antelope Valley College and their gallery there. And we hope to be working with a local museum out there, because we're trying, at least I'm trying every time I put it out, to find ways to make it more accessible to a wider audience. And we'd like to make it more accessible for a neurodivergent audience. And there's a museum out there that has been doing that. So I would like to work with them. So
sure, that's great.
Moa Cedar, if you're hearing this, please, that'd be awesome.
Where can people find the information to sign up or to submit?
They can find that at opulentmobility.com, and that the submissions open at the end of March / beginning of April. So
Great.
Yes.
Perfect. And let's talk about this other project you're taking on.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got a couple. But the most recently, I've just signed up for a program out of Arts for LA called Activate LA. And it's like a crash course in arts advocacy, which should be really cool. What I've been wanting to do, and I just started, was putting together workshops so that people, this one was over at Cal State LA in their kinesiology department, about decorating and personalizing wheelchairs and walkers and canes for the clients. And that just, it's like, okay, let's talk to the students and the clients, because it's super important that the people who are using the devices have a say in this.
Sure.
But also that the more accessible and fun you make this kind of activity, the more hands-on kind of, it's a really good point to start talking about disability and also to aging. And about how we can make this a part of our lives rather than something you overlook. Mm-hmm. I just recently did a cane commission for a friend of mine, and my friend had asked me to do it for her friend because her friend was almost getting knocked over in the street because people overlook and ignore people with devices all the time. I'm like, well, you're not going to do it when it's candy striped with an attached parasol, are you? So the idea, and it's made such an impact to do just little pieces like that I'm like, look, if we can do workshops in a bunch of different places, this would be really super great.
It's also a nice big FU to people that think that those types of people shouldn't be seen or heard from or should
die. Thank you, COVID.
Or should die. Exactly.
And that was part of me putting this out. It's like, look, there are more and more people, especially saying that anybody who doesn't live up to a health standard should be disposable. And that is totally not acceptable. I'm sorry. Because at any moment, that is any one of us.
Absolutely. Nobody knows.
You don't know. And truthfully, it's been one of the things that's been it's such a, I won't see it, I won't look at it kind of part of our culture. But the disability, you're lucky to get to it. Because if you are lucky to get old enough and to make it through aging and whatever injuries or sickness, you are going to be disabled. It's not a question. It's a when.
It also creates a situation like my dad, for example, has severe scoliosis. Huh. And he fights us. We try to get him to use any kind of device, a cane or anything.
Yeah, I know.
But it's, the virility of his
manhood.
Yeah, his wonder years and things. And I think the optics for him, he's got to get through that immortality desire, or that young forever desire that is in so many of us.
It is.
But it's to his detriment because he could slip and fall, and
sometimes actually a fabulous cane top makes a big difference. Yeah. I mean, I have seen people who are like, I'm not going out with this thing. You jazz it up with some bedazzling. Yeah. And they're like, I'm going to show this off to the world. Yeah. It makes things more social, and it makes it's just a human nature thing. I mean, we were decorating cave walls. No one had to do it technically. Yeah. You didn't have to do it to eat, but you wouldn't do it if it wasn't important to some degree. Yeah. This is an important part of our being. We decorate ourselves. We make the environments around us, as much as we can to our nature and to what we feel is wonderful. Yeah. Why would you not have that for everything around you? And why would you not want to make every part of your life as amazing and every time in your life as amazing as possible?
And everybody around you as well. Yeah. Why would you not look at it like everyone deserves to feel beautiful and empowered?
And glorious.
When I was younger, I did fine art photography modeling for, and you get pretty naked.
Yep. And that'll do it.
And you're with a lot of other models, and that to me, I found a journal that I had written back then when I was doing it, and how nervous I was to do it in the beginning. And then it was with a very fine, Dr. David Tepelka, a very fine photographer, and he's also a surgeon. He's got that MFA and MD thing going on. Anyway, and his work, his photography work hangs all over the world. He's
neat.
But I was nervous to do this thing, in my early 20s, when you hate your body, even if it's perfect, which mine was definitely not. But I'm just saying,
you are still gloriously lovely. I'm sorry.
But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that there's a human being, man or woman alive, that wouldn't look at some body part and go, God, I want to change that or whatever.
Yeah.
So here I am in this room full of people, all, men and women that were naked, and these naked people all around me, and I realized in that moment, it was so empowering. I was like, oh my God. And they were all different shapes and sizes. And I thought, wow, everyone is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It was so eye-opening. Now, did it take away all of my stuff? No, of course not. But it was really a beautiful moment. It didn't necessarily solve all the voices in my head, but it certainly created an idea. It planted a seed of how beautiful everyone is, regardless. That got reaffirmed when I went to my first spa, and the Korean spa, and all these women, all different shapes, all different kinds of hair, all different tattoo, not tattoo, pierced, not pierced, big, huge breasts, little tiny breasts, every color of the rainbow, everything. And it's glorious. Yeah. It's a glorious reminder of how beautiful we are.
Isn't it? I actually had some of mine, strangely enough, was when my former partner was working in vintage erotica, and I was helping sell stuff. But there's nothing like that will show you that all bodies are beautiful and that somebody wants them for exactly what they are. Let me tell you, anything you have, wet or wet, I don't know, there's someone out there who wants jiggly elbows.
Yeah.
There's probably a magazine, or at least there's a blog somewhere for that.
Yeah.
Every part of us, it's not only beautiful, but desirable.
Yeah. Vintage porn. I forgot about that.
Yes.
My
experience is vast and strange. Okay.
I would be remiss to not cover that just a hair.
Okay.
No pun intended.
It was a business called Eros Archives. And yes, I've spent a lot more time sorting photos in magazines and writing descriptions of things for catalogs and for Etsy and sometimes for magazines and whatnot. Did a bunch of odd rating of things.
What do you notice between porn today and the porn of yesteryear that is different and same?
It's interesting. I mean, because with all of it, it's totally fantasy. Like, I think most people don't seem to recognize that is. And it's like, you do understand that that's posed, right? And there are other people in the corner, like, trying to catch a shot underneath somebody's dripping armpit. And that will actually completely ruin any of the sense of magic that you've got going on. And just imagine the smell. We're just saying.
The vintage? Yeah.
Of any of that.
Yeah. Not a lot of bathing practices maybe back then, in the olden days.
But even now. But with most of it, after a while, you could certainly tell era just based on things like, eyeliner style and stockings. But right now, there's a lot more of the idea, I think, that people are trying to get, I don't know, as raunchy as humanly possible, but aren't still really realizing they're dealing with humans.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, guys, I mean, half the time, a lot of the older shots are just a lot more of human bodies being real human bodies. Mm-hmm. And while you've got some of that now, you've got an awful lot of people who are like, they haven't worn socks for a while, so they don't have creases on their ankles. They haven't worn their underwear, so there are no creases on the sides. It's so posed. It's so set up.
Ken doll, Barbie doll. Yeah.
But
that is a good point. I didn't think about that. Because there's a store in Los Feliz that has all these great books of vintage photographs, and one of them is vintage erotica and pornography. And it's so cool to look at. It's just like the rolled up stockings and people sitting in chairs and just
kind of hanging out, and their pubic hair is just kind of bunching out the sides. You're like, hey.
Yeah,
hi.
It's such a different vibe.
Yeah, it really is. It essentially has become so much of a business. Not that it wasn't before.
Yeah.
But it's
it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's become much more of that now.
Yeah. Well, where are you headed? What's up next? Besides the opulent mobility and the arts advocacy, where do you see things heading for you?
It's going to be a combination of things. More things with adaptive troops, adaptive organizations. I'd really like to do a lot more of the workshops. And really would love to grow Opulent Mobility so that I could travel with it when we can travel a little more safely again. Let's see how that goes. COVID permitting.
It's coming.
It's coming again. I'd also like to start putting out, and I'm in the process of putting out some online classes showing people how to make wearable art. Just because, and going through the whole steps of turning from an idea into breaking it down and then making it work on a human body.
Explain to them what wearable art is.
Well, I think of it as like half the things that you see on commercials are, honestly. Definitely anything you see on Drag Race, it'd be wearable art. But things that aren't necessarily easy costumes, It's something that steps out a little outside of the body. I mean, I even called things like Iris Van Herpen's designs more wearable art than just fashion. It goes outside and beyond standard costume or fashion and into a realm of or even
like a Met Gala situation?
Met Gala, absolutely. Hey, a lot of the sitcom sight gags are even some mascots that you'd see. But that idea of you start with the human form and then expand beyond it. So it's both something I'm really excited by, but I also know that there are a lot of people who need that and they really want that skill, and it's a teachable skill.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing a lot of people teaching it. So
interesting. Tell people how they might find you.
Okay, for that one, you can find dreamsbymachine.com, which is my other site, which is me and the art and teaching.
Dreamsbymachine.com.
Yep.
Great. Mostly
said because I, wherever possible, will do things and sew them by machine and not by hand because it's faster.
Yeah, and
I have a YouTube as well, A. Laura Brody.
Yes.
The YouTube.
YouTube
for the kids.
For the kids these days. Where you're teaching people stuff.
Yes, where I'm teaching that and also talking about things like opulent mobility and the artwork that I do for that.
Yeah. Before we go, so you have a giant mermaid that you are building.
Yes.
Why?
Okay. This one is based on the fairy Melusine, French medieval myth, and she was... Okay, she's a fairy. She took on human form. A guy comes to her and's freaked out because he's accidentally killed the king. She says, okay, everything's going to be fine. You marry me. I'm going to build you a nice castle and kingdom. Everything's going to be good, but you got to leave me alone on Saturday nights. And she kept her word, and he did not, and found her in her bath with cavorting with extra tails. Some of the legends say she had a single tail like a serpent. Some of them has twin tails, like the Starbucks logo, for example. But he didn't say anything immediately, and then finally did one day. It's like, that's what I get for marrying a horrible monster. And she's like, you just had to. She sprouts rings, she flies away, resumes her regular shape, and he dies in obscurity. So leave people alone.
Yeah,
when they say so.
Saturdays,
come on.
You need your bath time.
You need your boundaries.
You need boundaries. It's an excellent. What do they call it? Morality tale.
Yes, it is. We need autonomy and some space. Yes. We need space.
Hence, we grow a wing and get the
out
of there. Laura, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. This was so fun.
It was fun. Thank you for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Rate, review, and subscribe to Hey Human on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks. Bye.